The sky was dark with smoke. The battlefield was full of broken machines, dead soldiers, and burning fires. Captain Ryan stood in the middle of the ruins, his armor scratched, his rifle almost empty. The sound of silence was heavy, broken only by the crackle of fire and the distant roar of alien war machines. Humanity had fought for years against the alien empire. Billions had died, cities had turned into ashes, and hope was close to ending. Ryan had lost friends, brothers, and even his own family. Now he stood as one of the last leaders, fighting until the final breath behind him. A few human soldiers were still alive. Their eyes showed fear, but also trust in him. They looked at Ryan as if he was their only light in the darkness. He raised his hand, signaling them to stay low and quiet. From the smoke, shadows began to move. Tall figures with glowing armor stepped forward. They were the alien queen's royal guards. Their weapons sharp, their eyes cold. The humans raised their guns. But Ryan signaled them again, telling them to wait. Then, the ground trembled from the smoke. She appeared, the alien queen. Her armor shone with strange light, black and silver with glowing blue lines. Her crown was made of crystal, and her eyes burned like two small suns. She looked both dangerous and beautiful. She was taller than Ryan, her presence heavy. Her voice filled with power. The humans froze in fear. No one expected the queen herself to walk into the battlefield. Usually, she commanded from her palace far away. But now, here she was, standing in front of Ryan, face to face. Ryan lifted his rifle slowly, his finger near the trigger, but before he could act, the queen raised her hand. Her guard stopped. Their weapons ready but waiting. The world seemed to pause in that moment. The smoke swirled around them like a curtain. The queen's voice broke the silence. It was calm, strong, and filled with something strange, not just anger, but something deeper. "Hey, human soldier," she said. Her eyes locked on Ryan. "Marry me, or the war continues." The words cut through Ryan like a blade. His soldiers behind him gasped in shock. Ryan himself froze, unable to believe what he had just heard. Was this a trick? Was she mocking him? Why would the queen of the alien empire demand marriage instead of victory? For a long moment, Ryan could not speak. His heart pounded in his chest, his hands trembled. He thought about the millions who had died, the endless war, the pain of humanity if she was serious. Then maybe peace could come with one choice, but how could he trust her? Ryan lowered his rifle slightly, his voice rough from battle. "Why?" he asked. "Why me?" The queen stepped closer, her eyes never leaving his. "Because without this union, the blood will never stop," she said. "My people demand war. Your people demand survival. Only by joining can the fire end." Her words were heavy, filled with something Ryan could not understand. It was not love. It was not kindness. It was something else. Maybe duty, maybe prophecy, maybe power, but whatever it was, it left Ryan with fear and confusion. Behind him, his soldiers whispered. "Captain, don't listen to her," one said. "It's a trap," another whispered, but Ryan could feel the eyes of every soldier, every human, waiting for his answer. The battlefield was quiet now. No guns, no bombs, no screams, only silence. Both armies had stopped fighting, watching their leaders. The fate of two worlds rested on one decision. Ryan's thoughts raced. If he said no, the war would continue, and humanity might lose. If he said yes, he would marry the enemy queen. He would give up his freedom, his life, and maybe his soul. But he could save his people. The queen raised her hand again, slowly. She reached toward him as if offering both a promise and a threat. Her voice was low, but everyone could hear it. "Choose, human soldier, marry me, or watch your world burn." Ryan's heart thundered inside him. The battlefield around him felt like a stage. Every eye, human and alien, was waiting. His soldiers looked at him with fear. The aliens with cold silence, the Queen with burning eyes. Ryan's breath was heavy, his mind screaming. He knew that whatever he said next would change history forever. And in that moment, with smoke rising and silence all around, the war stood still, waiting for the answer of one man. Captain Ryan stood frozen on the battlefield. The Queen's words echoed in his ears like thunder. "Marry me or the war continues," she had said. The soldiers behind him waited, silent, their hearts beating fast. The alien army in the distance stood still. Their glowing eyes locked on him for one moment. The world seemed to stop breathing. Ryan's mind was filled with chaos. He was a soldier, trained to fight, trained to kill, not to marry an alien queen. But now, his decision could decide the future of humanity. He thought about the children hiding in shelters, the families waiting for peace, the graves of those already lost. He thought about the promise he once made to his dying commander. Never stop fighting for humanity, and now the war could end with one word from him. But could he trust her? Her beauty was dangerous. Her words sharp, her power overwhelming. What if this was only a trick, a trap to control humanity if he said yes? He could be walking into a prison with golden chains. If he said no, billions more could die. The choice felt like a blade at his throat. The Queen stepped closer, her crystal crown glowing faintly, her eyes burned like fire. Yet inside them Ryan thought he saw something else, not hate, not victory, but something like fear. She spoke again, her voice calm but heavy. "Your people cannot survive another century of war," she said. "My people cannot either. The blood of two races has filled the stars long enough." Ryan raised his rifle again, not pointing it at her, but holding it close. His voice was rough. "Why me? Why not someone else?" The Queen tilted her head, her long silver hair catching the glow of fire around them. "Because you are the only human leader still standing," she said. "Your courage is known even among my people. If you join with me, peace will be sealed in blood, and no one will dare to break it." Behind Ryan, his soldiers whispered again. "Captain, don't do it," one muttered. "She's lying." "This is all a game," another said. Ryan clenched his jaw, his hands shaking slightly. The impossible choice burned inside him like fire. Suddenly, the silence was broken by a voice from the alien side. One of the alien generals stepped forward, his armor shining red. He bowed to the Queen, but his words carried anger. "My Queen, this human is beneath you. Let us crush his kind and take victory with force." The alien army roared in approval, their weapons glowing, but the Queen raised her hand and silence returned. Her gaze stayed on Ryan, not moving, not blinking. This made the humans more afraid. They saw the Queen's power. How even her generals feared her if Ryan refused. She could unleash her entire empire in rage, but if he accepted, could humanity truly survive under her rule? Ryan lowered his weapon slightly, his breath heavy. He remembered his sister's last words before she died in a bombing. "Ryan, promise me you will make sure our people see peace," he had promised. But at that time, peace seemed impossible. Now, the impossible stood in front of him, wearing a crown. The Queen's hand stretched toward him again. Her voice softened, but the weight of her words was crushing. "Think carefully, human soldier. Marry me, and your people will live. Refuse me, and they will be ashes in the stars." Ryan looked at his soldiers, their faces pale, their eyes wide. They trusted him. They would follow his choice. No matter what it was, that trust was heavier than any armor. The silence of the battlefield pressed down on him. Even the flames around them seemed to wait for his decision, but Ryan was not ready to answer. His instincts told him this moment was a trap. No queen, no empire. No ruler would risk themselves unless something deeper was driving them. There had to be more than she was saying. He needed time. He needed answers. He lowered his rifle slowly and spoke. "If you want peace, then prove it," he said. "Words are not enough. I want to know the truth. I want to know why me, why now, why marriage." The queen's eyes narrowed slightly. But she did not show anger. Instead, she smiled. A smile sharp and mysterious. "You will have your answers," she said. "I will give you 3 days. Come to my palace as my guest. And you will see why this choice must be made." Her words struck like lightning. 3 days. 3 days to walk into the heart of the enemy. 3 days to discover if this was peace or betrayal. Ryan's soldiers looked at him in horror. "You can't trust her, Captain," one whispered. "She will kill you the moment you step inside her world." But Ryan's mind was made. He needed to know the truth, no matter the risk. If he refused without learning, humanity might never forgive him. If he accepted blindly, humanity might never survive. He lowered his rifle completely, his voice steady but heavy. 3 days, he said. "I will come. But if this is a trick, Queen, I will not die alone." The Queen nodded once, her eyes glowing in the smoke. 3 days, she repeated. Then she turned, her guards forming a wall around her as she walked back into the smoke. Her army followed, vanishing into the ruins like shadows. The battlefield was silent once more. The humans looked at Ryan, waiting for his next command. But Ryan himself only stared at the smoke where she had disappeared. Inside his heart, the impossible choice still burned. And now, the countdown had begun. The night was cold as Ryan and his soldiers made camp near the ruins. The stars above were silent witnesses to a war that had lasted too long. But Ryan could not sleep. The Queen's words kept echoing in his head. 3 days, come to my palace, and you will know the truth. What truth could be so powerful that only marriage could stop the war? Ryan sat alone by the fire, staring at the flames. Every spark reminded him of the bombs that had fallen on human cities. Every crackle reminded him of screams. He had lost too much to trust an enemy so easily. Yet something in the Queen's eyes haunted him. They had burned with power, but also with fear. Why would a queen, ruler of millions, show fear? The next morning, Ryan began the journey. A group of alien envoys arrived to escort him. They wore black armor marked with the Queen's crest, their faces hidden behind masks. Ryan's soldiers begged him not to go. "Captain, this is madness," one said. "She will kill you before you reach her palace," another warned. But Ryan raised his hand and spoke firmly. "If this is a trap, I will face it, if it is truth. Then we will finally see the end of this war, with heavy hearts." His men watched as he left. The alien transport glided across the ruined land, its engines humming softly. Ryan sat inside, watching the world pass by. The battlefield gave way to alien-controlled cities. Tall black towers reached for the sky. Strange lights floated in the air. Creatures of many forms walked the streets. Some with scales, some with wings, some with glowing eyes. They all stopped to watch as the Queen's guards escorted a human soldier through their land. Ryan's heart was tense, his hand never far from his weapon. He could feel their stares, a mix of fear, hate, and curiosity. In their eyes, he was the enemy who had killed thousands of their kind. Yet he was also the human chosen by their queen. The contradiction filled the air with danger. At last, the transport reached the Queen's palace. It was larger than any city Ryan had seen, made of black stone and glowing crystal. Its towers shone like blades against the sky. Guards lined the gates, bowing as their queen appeared on a balcony high above. Her eyes found Ryan instantly, as if she had been waiting only for him. Ryan was led inside the palace. The halls were filled with alien carvings, glowing murals showing ancient battles and old rulers. The air was thick with the smell of burning incense. And everywhere, Ryan felt eyes watching him. Whispers followed him as alien nobles glared with cold hatred. He was a human inside the heart of their empire, and none wanted him there, finally. The queen met him in a chamber filled with light. Her crown gleamed brighter than before, her robes long and flowing. She dismissed her guards and stood before him. "You came," she said softly. Ryan crossed his arms, his voice sharp. "You gave me no choice." The queen studied him for a long time, then spoke. "My people believe in an ancient prophecy," she said. "A union between our kind and yours will bring balance to the stars. Without it, both our races will fall." Ryan frowned, his voice heavy with disbelief. "You expect me to believe in a prophecy? After all the death you caused, after all the blood you spilled?" The queen's eyes did not flinch. "You think this war was my choice?" she said. "It was forced upon me by the High Council. They demand blood. They demand conquest. But I know the truth. My empire is dying." She moved closer, her voice lowering. "Our resources are broken. Our soldiers grow weaker. Even now they hide the truth from the people if the war continues. My empire will collapse within a century." Ryan's eyes widened. If what she said was true, then the aliens were not invincible. But why would she tell him this? Why reveal weakness to an enemy? The queen seemed to read his thoughts. "You must understand, human soldier. My enemies are not just your kind. They are within my own throne room. Many want me dead. Many want endless war. But if I join with you, the council will have no choice but to accept peace." Ryan felt torn. Could she be telling the truth, or was this another layer of lies? His instincts told him she was hiding something more, something deeper. But he also saw the flicker of desperation in her eyes. This was not just about peace, this was about survival. "Why me?" Ryan asked again, his voice quieter this time. The queen stepped closer, her gaze locked on his. "Because you are the only human strong enough to face my council, to stand beside me without fear. The only one whose name carries weight in both our worlds." Her voice trembled slightly. "Only for a second. You are the only chance I have left." The silence in the chamber was heavy. Ryan could feel the weight of her words pressing on his chest. If what she said was true, then the war had already doomed both sides. Only a dangerous choice could stop the fall. But still, doubt gnawed at him. If she lied, he would not only doom himself, but also all of humanity. He turned away, staring at the glowing murals of ancient battles. Finally, he spoke, his voice low but steady. 3 days you gave me, and I will use every second. I will see your world. I will see your truth. And only then will I decide." The queen nodded, though her eyes showed frustration. "As you wish, Captain Ryan," she said. "But remember, the shadows inside this palace are darker than the war outside, if you do not choose quickly. They may choose for you." Her warning lingered in the air like a blade. Ryan realized that he was no longer just a soldier in a war. He was now a player in a deadly game of thrones and survival. And the secrets of the queen were only beginning to reveal themselves. The queen's words echoed in Ryan's mind like a drumbeat. "The shadows inside this palace are darker than the war outside." She had warned. Ryan felt the truth in her voice. But he also sensed danger in every corner. Now, the bargain was clear. He had 3 days to discover her truth. And then he must decide. The next morning, Ryan was guided through the palace. Alien guards in shining armor followed his every step. Their eyes sharp and cold, the halls were endless. filled with glowing crystals and murals of alien victories. But behind the beauty, Ryan felt poison. Whispers followed him everywhere. Whispers in a language he could not fully understand. He knew the alien nobles hated him. A human soldier walking freely where no human had ever walked. The queen met him in a long chamber with open windows that looked out over her empire. Cities stretched far into the horizon. Lights floating in the sky like fireflies. Her people moved below. Living under towers of stone and crystal, Ryan studied them with sharp eyes. They did not look like conquerors. Some looked tired, some hungry, some fearful. Perhaps her words about weakness were not lies after all. The queen stood beside him, her silver hair glowing under the alien sun. "You see them?" she said, her voice calm. "They believe we are strong, but inside, my empire bleeds." Ryan crossed his arms. His voice steady. "Then why keep fighting us? Why waste lives on both sides?" The queen's jaw tightened. Her eyes burned because the council demands it. Because war hides the truth as long as we fight you. My people do not question the cracks inside. Ryan's suspicion grew. "So your marriage plan," he said, "it is not just for peace. It is to protect your throne." The queen turned to him sharply. Her eyes flashing. "My throne means nothing if my people fall. Understand this, human soldier, without peace. Both our worlds will be dust." Before Ryan could answer, the chamber doors opened. A group of alien nobles entered. Their robes long and heavy. Their faces cold. They bowed to the queen. But their eyes cut into Ryan like knives. One of them stepped forward. His voice sharp. "My queen, forgive us. But we cannot accept this human walking in our sacred halls. He is our enemy." His hands are soaked in alien blood. The others murmured in agreement. Their whispers rising like a storm. The queen raised her hand. Her voice strong enough. "He is under my protection. Anyone who harms him will answer to me." Her power silenced the chamber. But Ryan could see the hatred burning in their eyes. These were not her allies. These were wolves waiting for her to stumble when the nobles left. Ryan spoke in a low voice. "They want me dead." "Don't they?" The queen's lips pressed together. "Yes, they want me dead too, but they do not dare strike openly. The council hides daggers behind smiles. And now that you are here, the danger has doubled." Ryan's instincts screamed louder than ever. He was not only in enemy territory, he was in the middle of a palace filled with plots. One wrong move and his body would be left in some shadowed corridor. And yet, the queen walked with calm, as if this was the only life she had ever known. That evening, she invited him to a feast. The great hall was filled with alien food, glowing fruits, steaming meats, and drinks that shimmered like liquid fire. Nobles filled the tables, their laughter sharp. Their eyes sharpest of all. Ryan sat at the queen's side. His hand always near his blade. He could feel the poison in the air. Not in the food, but in the stares. One noble leaned forward, his voice smooth like oil. "Tell us, human soldier, what does your kind eat before battle?" "Ashes from your burned cities, perhaps." The hall filled with cruel laughter. Ryan's jaw tightened, but he did not rise to the bait. Instead, he stared at the noble with steady eyes and said, "No, we eat the memory of our dead, and it makes us stronger." The laughter died, silence fell, and, for the first time, the aliens looked at him with something other than hatred. They saw the fire that kept humans alive. The queen's lips curved into a faint smile. But her eyes stayed watchful after the feast. She walked with Ryan through the quiet halls. After the feast, she walked with Ryan through the quiet halls. "You handled them well," she said. Ryan shrugged, his voice rough. "I have faced worse than words." But the queen stopped suddenly. Her eyes scanning the shadows from the dark corner, a dagger flew. aimed at Ryan's chest without thinking. The queen stepped forward, deflecting it with her armored wrist. The blade clattered to the ground, and the guards rushed in, catching a cloaked figure. An assassin, masked and silent, dragged away, kicking. The queen's voice cut like steel. "See, Captain Ryan. The bargain is more dangerous than you know. They want you dead before you can decide, and if they succeed, the war will never end." Ryan's heart pounded. The palace was not just dangerous, it was a nest of knives. If he stayed, he might not live to make his choice. But if he left, humanity might lose its one chance at peace. He stared at the queen, his voice low. "Then this bargain is not only mine." "Is it?" "It is yours too, queen, if you fail. You lose everything." She met his eyes, her face calm but her voice heavy. "Yes, human soldier, my enemies wait for both of us. This is no longer just war. This is survival. And the clock is already ticking." Ryan turned toward the window, looking out at the endless alien city for the first time. He understood the war was not the only battle. Inside this palace, another war was already raging. Silent, secret, and even more deadly. And now he was trapped inside it. With only 3 days to choose his path, the assassin's blade still lay on the palace floor. Ryan stared at it, his jaw tight, his hand resting on his rifle. The queen's guards had dragged the attacker away, but the danger had not vanished. If anything, it had grown inside this palace. Ryan was no longer just a soldier, he was a target, and every shadow whispered death that night. Ryan was given a chamber to rest in. It was grand, filled with silver walls, glowing light crystals, and alien banners. But to him, it felt like a cage. He sat on the edge of the bed, his mind restless. His instincts screamed at him, trust no one, not even the queen. Because even she might be playing a game too deep for him to see. Outside his chamber, alien guards stood silently. Their armor gleamed, their weapons ready. But Ryan noticed their eyes cold, sharp, unfriendly. They were not protecting him. They were watching him, waiting, studying, judging. The thought made his skin crawl. At midnight, Ryan moved to the balcony. From there, he could see the alien city stretching out like a sea of light. But below the glowing towers, shadows moved, dark alleys. Hidden markets, restless people. The queen had shown him strength. But Ryan saw weakness, hunger, anger, fear. Her empire was not unshakable. It was breaking apart suddenly. The balcony door creaked. A figure slipped inside. Quiet as smoke, Ryan turned fast, his weapon raised. But the intruder lifted both hands quickly, showing no blade. It was not an alien guard. It was a human. A human dressed in ragged clothes, eyes wide with desperation. "Don't shoot," the man whispered. Ryan froze, his heart racing. "How are you here?" Ryan demanded, his voice low and sharp. The man stepped closer, his voice urgent. "We are prisoners, Captain, humans captured in raids. Forced to work as slaves in the lower city." Ryan's eyes burned, his grip tightening on his weapon. "Why come to me?" The man's eyes filled with pain. "Because some of us believe you can save us, but others, they want the war to continue. They think peace will only mean chains." Ryan's chest felt heavy. Even among his own people, there was division. Some wanted freedom. Others wanted revenge, if he chose marriage. Would they see him as a savior or a traitor before he could speak again? The man slipped a piece of cloth into Ryan's hand. On it was a mark, a human symbol scratched in blood. "Not everyone wants peace, Captain," the man whispered. Then he vanished into the shadows before the guards noticed. Ryan stood there in silence. The queen had told him her enemies hid in the council. Now he knew his own people were divided too. The danger was not only outside, It was everywhere. The next day, Ryan was summoned to the council chamber. The hall was massive, pillars of crystal rising high. Alien nobles sat on thrones of black stone, their eyes glowing with hate. The queen sat at the center, her crown shining, her expression calm. Ryan felt every gaze burn into him. He was a soldier among predators. One noble rose, his voice like a blade. "My queen, this is madness. This human is our enemy. His people slaughtered ours. How can you speak of marriage with such blood between us?" Another noble hissed. "Peace is weakness. Only war will keep us strong. Do not let this human poison our empire." The chamber filled with angry voices, the sound rising like a storm. Ryan stood firm, his eyes sharp. He wanted to shout back, to tell them of human suffering, of burned cities and broken families, but he held his tongue. He knew one wrong word would seal his death. The queen raised her hand, and silence fell. Her voice rang strong. "This war has lasted long enough. Our people bleed, their people bleed. Endless death brings no victory, only ruin." The nobles glared. But they could not openly defy her. Yet Ryan could see it in their eyes. Hatred, fear, betrayal. They would strike at her in the shadows, just as they had tried to strike at him after the council ended. Ryan walked with the queen through a silent corridor. He finally spoke, his voice low. "They don't want peace. They want you dead. And me with you." The queen's steps slowed, her face calm but her voice heavy. "Yes, they will betray me if they can. But so will some of your people." Ryan turned sharply, his eyes narrow. "What do you mean?" The queen looked at him with eyes that seemed to see deeper than he wanted. "Your people are not united. Some believe peace is surrender. Some will call you a traitor if you take my hand. Betrayal surrounds us both." Captain Ryan's stomach twisted. The words of the human prisoner came back to him. She was right. Betrayal was not just in her palace. It was in his own camp, too. He was trapped in a web of lies and daggers. Every choice cut him deeper. That night, Ryan sat alone in his chamber again. The cloth with the bloody human mark lay in his hand. Was it a warning, a threat, or a plea? The shadows in the corners seemed alive. Any one of them could hide an assassin, alien, or human. Ryan knew he could not trust anyone fully. Not even the queen. But one thing was clear. Peace or war, survival or death, everything would depend on who betrayed first. And in that silence, Ryan realized the truth. This was no longer about marriage alone. It was about betrayal waiting in every shadow, and if he made the wrong move, humanity and the alien empire would both burn. The palace at night was quiet, but Ryan could feel the weight of unseen eyes. Every shadow whispered danger. Every silence felt like a trap. He had faced battlefields filled with fire and blood. But this was different. This was a war of whispers, of betrayal, of choices heavier than any weapon. Ryan sat by the balcony again. Staring out at the alien city, the towers glowed with light. But in the streets below, darkness lived. He thought about the human prisoner who had warned him. He thought about the alien nobles who wanted him dead, and he thought about the queen. Her words, her eyes, her strange demand. The queen entered quietly, her footsteps soft against the crystal floor. Ryan turned sharply, his hand near his weapon. She raised a hand gently, showing she came without guards. Her eyes were calmer tonight, not filled with fire, but with something heavier. "Do you ever wonder," she asked softly, "why we fight so long? Why we bleed when we could heal?" Ryan frowned, his voice rough. "I wonder every day. I lost my family to this war. I lost my friends. I lost everything. And for what?" His chest tightened, memories of burning cities filling his mind. Every time I close my eyes, I see their faces, he said quietly. The queen stepped closer, her gaze steady. You are not alone in loss, she whispered. My brother fell in the first years of this war. My sister was killed by my own council for speaking of peace. I carry ghosts too. Captain Ryan froze. Shocked by her words, he had seen her as a queen. A ruler, a dangerous enemy, but now, for the first time, he saw her as something else, a woman carrying her own grief. Their eyes locked, and for a moment, there was no human, no alien, only two hearts scarred by war. You want me to marry you, Ryan said slowly. But is this about peace? Or about filling the emptiness inside you? The queen's lips curved into a faint. Sad smile, perhaps both, she admitted. I want peace for my people, yes, but I also want peace inside myself. I am tired of blood, tired of endless war. I am tired of being Queen of Graves. Her words cut deep into Ryan. He had always believed aliens to be cold, merciless monsters. But now, standing before him was one who mourned just like a human. And in that moment, he wondered if their two hearts were not so different after all. They stood in silence, the night air heavy with unspoken truths. Then the queen spoke again, her voice softer than ever. My council does not see me as I am. They see only a throne. But you, human soldier, you see me as more. And I see you as more too, not just a warrior, but a man who carries his people in his heart. Ryan's chest tightened. Her words were dangerous, not as a threat, but as a truth he did not want to feel. Because if he began to see her not as an enemy, but as something more, his choice would grow harder. He forced himself to turn away, his voice sharp. Do not try to twist my heart, Queen. I am still your enemy. But the queen did not flinch. Perhaps, she whispered, or perhaps you are the only one who can understand me. The queen's council was restless. Whispers of rebellion spread through the palace halls like fire in dry grass. The nobles had failed to kill Ryan with assassins. But they would not stop, and now they demanded proof. If the queen truly wanted to bind herself to a human, then the human must survive a trial of blood, strength, and courage. Ryan stood in the council chamber as the decree was spoken. He listened in silence, his jaw tight. The alien nobles smiled with cold satisfaction. They believed this trial would kill him. One noble leaned forward, his voice sharp like a knife. If the human survives, perhaps he has worth, but if he dies, then the war continues as it should. The queen's eyes burned with anger. But she did not deny them. She turned to Ryan, her voice low and steady. This is their game. But it is also a test if you pass. No one can deny your strength if you fail. Her voice trailed off, and Ryan understood if he failed. Humanity's last chance for peace would be buried with him. The next morning, Ryan was taken to the arena. It was a massive circle of black stone, open to the alien sky. Crowds filled the stands, nobles, soldiers, and citizens all watching, their glowing eyes fixed on the lone human standing at the center. The air trembled with tension. Some shouted for his death, others waited in silence. Curious to see if he could survive, the queen sat upon a throne high above, her crown shining like a blade of light. Her expression was calm. But Ryan saw fear in her eyes. She wanted him to live. Though she could not show it, he raised his head, locking eyes with her for a brief moment. And then the gates of the arena opened. The first creature stepped out. It was massive, twice the height of a man. With armored skin and claws-like swords, its roar shook the stone walls. Ryan tightened his grip on his blade. This was no fair trial. This was execution disguised as honor. The beast charged, claws slashing. Ryan rolled aside. The stone cracking under the creature's strike, he fought with speed, not strength. Striking at its weak points, his blade cut across its leg. Making it stumble, the crowd roared. Some in anger, some in surprise. Ryan pressed on, using every skill he had learned on the battlefield, and at last, with a final strike. The beast fell, its roar dying into silence. Ryan stood over it, breathing hard, sweat on his face. The crowd murmured. The human had survived the first trial. But the gates opened again. This time, 3 creatures emerged. Smaller but faster, with glowing eyes and snapping jaws. They circled Ryan, their movements sharp. Coordinated, he moved with caution. His blade ready, one leaped, and he spun, driving his weapon into its chest. But the second slashed his arm, blood spilling onto the stone. The pain burned, but Ryan refused to fall. He fought through the pain, striking again and again until the last beast lay dead at his feet. The crowd erupted with noise. Some cheered, others shouted in rage. The nobles watched with narrowed eyes, their plan failing piece by piece. Ryan stood tall, wounded but alive. Then the final gate opened. The arena shook as something far larger entered, a monster of stone and fire, its body glowing with molten cracks. Its roar thundered across the sky. Ryan's chest tightened, his strength fading. But he refused to step back. The battle was brutal. The monster's strikes shook the ground, sending Ryan crashing against the walls. His body screamed in pain, blood dripping from his wounds. But each time he rose again, memories of his family, his soldiers. His people filled his heart. He would not fall, not here, not now. He drove his blade into the creature's glowing chest. Holding on as the beast roared, the fire burned him. But he pushed deeper until finally, with a deafening crash, the monster collapsed, its flames dying into smoke. The arena was silent. Even the nobles were speechless. Ryan stood in the center, his body broken, his clothes burned, but his eyes still sharp. He raised his blade, bloodied but unbroken, and the silence turned into a roar. The people shouted, some in disbelief, others in awe. The human had survived. The queen rose from her throne, her voice carrying across the arena. "Behold, the human soldier," she declared. "He has faced our trial and lived. His courage is proof, his strength undeniable. None may call him unworthy again." The crowd roared louder. The nobles glared in silence. They had lost their chance to destroy him in the open. Now they would be forced into darker shadows. Ryan looked up at the queen, their eyes meeting again. For the first time, he saw pride in her gaze. Not the pride of a ruler, but the pride of someone who had found an equal. His body trembled from exhaustion, but his heart burned stronger than ever. This trial had not broken him. It had made him something more, and deep inside, Ryan knew. The next choice would be the hardest of all, because now, the queen's bargain was not just about peace or survival. It was about trust, about hearts, about futures bound together. The arena's smoke cleared, the people's voices echoed. And Ryan stood in the middle, a soldier, a survivor, a man whose fate was no longer his alone.